Welcome back to Visited by Voices Live at a special earlier time to accommodate a big ocean between us. My guest today is filmmaker and actress Emma Dark. Emma, how are you this evening?
It is, yeah. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm great. Thanks very much.
Oh, absolutely. So our show really tries to take into account all the voices from around the community, the horror community, because we come from a diverse set of stories, although we have certain commonalities that we discover. And I think that whether it's a filmmaker or a writer or another fan or a podcaster, wherever you come from this community, your voice is valuable. So it's great to have you on in particular because you're actually adding the content of the future. You are one of the emerging voices that is going to carry us for the next 30 years and let me die knowing that there's still going to be a future.
Well, let's hope so.
No pressure.
Yeah.
So I always start with the simplest of questions. How'd you get bit by this horror bug?
I mean, well, this goes back to like super young, really. I mean, it started out with sci-fi, really. So at the age of 2, I was watching Star Trek, the original series. From there, it just progressed, things you see on TV. And then at around, I think, the age of 5 or 6, I watched Albert Pune's The Sword and the Sorcerer, which, again, it's not strictly speaking a horror, but I don't know if you've watched it and you've seen the opener sequence. That is pretty much of a horror opener sequence. So, yeah, really from there. And more so after that point, it was books. So lots of horror books as I sort of came to my sort of early, you would call it tweens now. And then from that point, sort of I got to mid-teens and I was able to watch more horror films. I was able to stay up later. My parents let me stay up and get other videos and stuff like that and watch them. So, yeah, really that was my journey.
Is there a specific title that helped push you over the edge to the point where you realized, hey, I'm a fan of this stuff?
No, Not specifically. I've just always really, really liked it. I've always liked dark things. You know, even when it comes to sci-fi, it's always the darker kind of sci-fi series and episodes and stuff like that I'm drawn to. So this has gone back many years. And actually, when I was very young, my dad was a butcher. He used to have his own butcher shop, and this is probably quite disgusting, but in a butcher shop you have a fridge and a freezer and stuff like that, a very large walk-in one. And when I was a child, I'd walk in amongst the animals in the fridge trying to find one, like a sheep with a head and the fur. For some reason I thought they still have the head and fur on, try to stroke them. So I guess that's pretty horrific, and my dad used to shut me in there for a laugh. So.
For laughs?
Yeah, only for about 10 seconds or something, but yeah.
Just enough to get the blood pumping.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I've always liked horror.
Well, I think we know at a very young age.
Yes.
It's kind of like you like black licorice or you don't. You figure it out pretty young, and that pretty much doesn't change.
Yeah.
So I think I know the answer to this next question, but so actress, writer, director. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
I would say director. I'm a director moreover than an actor. I don't think I would even classify myself as a writer. That's just a needs must kind of thing. I'd rather have a script writer for every film, to be honest, and just come up with the concept and story. But it doesn't always go that way. The acting stuff came first only through that being circumstance. So I take this out of my bio now, but for years I was a model, like a semi-professional model on the alternative scene. I did some catalogue stuff and things like that. And I kind of moved on from that into the acting world, but through the modelling, which happens to a lot of people. And then it was from the acting that I moved on into directing. So
looking over your body of work and watching what I could find, what was accessible to me anyway, you have a big, diverse pool of interests inside the genre very clearly as well. So you have everything you have short films that are inspired by Asian horror. You have more like experimental, looks like almost 8mm or 16mm, experimental, artistic, almost Lynchian. Dark sci-fi, which I guess plays in directly with your earliest experiences. And then you hit my sweet spot with a film you called Death Ride Blues, which is kind of the Hammer / Amicus horror, Ride with the Devil type of thing. So, do you just love it all?
I do, yeah. I mean, the Death Ride Blues, that was something that was made on spec for a band. So I had a lot of free reign over the edit with that, but they did have a theme in mind. So they had the whole Hammer theme and stuff like that. More the kind of stuff that I would probably want to continue with is something like From Salient -10, but probably taking the horror up slightly. Gorio, which was the J-horror piece, again, that was made because a friend of mine, Nikolai Cornum, who's a really good filmmaker himself, he wanted to create an anthology for the lockdown. So literally, as soon as the lockdown started, we started making this anthology, and it all had to be shot on mobile phone, which was something I'd previously been against, to be honest, because like if you're given the choice of the quality of something shot on mobile and the quality of something shot on something like a Sony A7S Mark II, which Salient -10 was shot on, I'd rather go for the Sony. But this was the remit, so I had to keep something sort of simple. And I'd been to Japan earlier in the year, so that was kind of the theme I was going for. And for my next film, there will be a Japanese element as well.
Excellent. So is that that pandemic shutdown film, is that isolation horrors?
Yeah.
So that was an anthology.
Yes. Yeah.
So was that relationship in existence before you came on board, or did you get together in order to make that?
No. So Nikolai phoned me up. Actually, he'd never called me before, so I thought he'd accidentally called me. So I kind of just ignored it the first time. You know when people do the Facebook video messaging by accident? I've done it by accident myself. And then it happened again. I thought, oh, he must actually want to speak to me. I don't usually get people randomly calling me. It's usually all scheduled stuff. So I picked it up. And he'd already got this idea in mind of doing this lockdown horror. Like, everyone could come up with their own individual stories, but he had a specific wrap in mind that he wanted to put around that. And he got everyone else on board, and I was the last person to come on board. So, yeah.
And something I find fascinating, you made a fake trailer for a non-existent sequel to Armando Diasorio's Blind Dead series.
Yes, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people seem to like that one. It goes down well. Yeah, I only get criticised that they're the blind dead out in the daylight, but what can you do? I literally shot that. It was shot on. I don't have it to hand, but it was a tiny little Sony compact camera. There's no way it would have picked up anything at night. So.
Well, to be fair, I think Diasorio probably cheated and Ghost Galleon pretty horrifically with his own rules. So who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
We do have a question from the chat already, so I don't want to get those lost. So Jess Graham, friend of the show, asks, what is Emma's favorite horror film series and horror icon?
I don't have a favourite horror film series. I don't really have a favourite anything. I have lots of favourites. So one thing I'll say at the minute, and you can see this all over my social media, you can see him just down there, my Good Guy doll, my Chucky doll. So I do love all the Child's Play films, mostly 1 to 4. But yeah, I do love those.
Hey, I love the Child's Play films for what they are as you ride them through. I was actually a big defender of the remake.
I love it.
Didn't leave anywhere to go for its climax, which was unfortunate, and one more draft of a screenplay would have helped them. But I thought up to that point it was kind of what it should have been, where the series should have been.
Yeah. No, I really love it. I don't know whether they're going to do a sequel or not to that, but
they don't even legally have the rights to do them anymore. That's the problem.
Really? Okay, that's not good.
They only had the rights to remake the original because they had the rights to the original, but all the derivative rights they don't own.
That's a shame.
Well, we're getting a television series.
Great.
You're getting a television series.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Of the original continuity. So,
yeah.
Sort of. I'm hearing kind of contrary things that it's kind of the original continuity.
Yeah, but apparently it was quite rewritten by Tom Holland, so the first one. So it was quite different to the original story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that you're extremely passionate about the idea of women creators in horror.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, here's my thing. I always try and keep my language as broad as possible when I speak about this. I think it's important that we get creators from all different backgrounds because that's how we get new stories. When we complain that we keep getting the same stories over and over, it's because we keep getting the same people with the same backgrounds. So I think it's very important that we expand the pool. So while I don't take one group and promote them exclusively, my thing is on the channel with my guests, I've tried to do this too. Wherever someone catches my eye as a point of interest, I'll invite them on. Because I don't think exclusion is necessarily the answer to this. What I think the answer is the opposite. It's that someone comes up with a great idea, which probably is because they come from a different background from you, honestly, right? And we get behind that person on a one-on-one basis. That's how I feel. And I mean, that's not, it might be impractical in some ways, but what I wanted to point out is, I think the last couple of years, women directors in horror have been on some of the most cutting edge films that have come out. My favorite film of last year, Relic, Natalie Erica James, just knock it out of the park in every way imaginable. Obviously, Jennifer Kent is just a hugely important elevated horror figure. Lilia Annapur, the Girl Walks Home at Night, certainly an important pinpoint moment in the genre. And even Karen Kusma, who of course did Jennifer's Body. We kind of forget her all the time, but she was one of the, I don't want to say early voices because obviously you have Catherine Bigelow and other people, but for inside the Beltway horror, important. So I think that battle is being won. Now, it's not saying there's not work to be done, but I think it's being won. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a difficult thing because from my perspective, most people will always, and okay, this is because I do acting as well, but most people will always pick that up first before the directing. And I think there seems to be a common and typical trend amongst women directors, even women directors who haven't acted. When you go to like an event, like a networking event or something like that, or a panel or something, people always assume that you're an actor and not a filmmaker. I don't know why that is. I really don't. And I would say I do still see, it certainly in the indie film scene, more cliqueiness and opportunities offered to men over women. And I don't know why that is.
You want here's my really elbow grease, like so ridiculously base level answer to that. I think guys just know how to talk to other guys. They don't know how to talk to women.
It could be that.
And it becomes a whole problem of treating another person like a human being because you happen to be of a different gender. I think if we learned how to communicate better as a species, we'd probably be in better shape with all this stuff, period.
Yeah, I find it strange because I just see people as people. And, I don't really see what their gender or anything has got to do with them. So it's kind of odd. And I speak to lots of men all the time, Well, there are lots of men on the scene, but
women are taught from a very young age how to speak to men. The reverse is certainly not true for men talking to women, and that's a social issue that has to be taken care of. But the funny thing is, in anytime art is going to succeed, and even commercial arts, don't get me wrong, it has to bring something new to the table. So again, searching for a voice outside your own should be what producers and I know the cat's distracting. I can't stop her. She'll tear me to shreds. We have to search out voices that haven't had the opportunity thus far to tell stories. I don't like the word represented because it's a word that's so overused. It's become meaningless and almost aggressively overused.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important we look for voices to express. Is there anyone out there, any creator, it doesn't have to be a woman, that particularly inspires you?
I really want to do a shout out for a couple of people. So they're short filmmakers at the minute, both female. I think really good, really talented. There's Obi Dialessi. She's absolutely fantastic. Her work is slightly sort of shallow-like. She's also got a bit of J-horror influence in there. I think her work's very original and very interesting. It's definitely, and it's on the arty side. And then Samantha Ochi as well. So she's actually been in one of my films and I've worked with her on a number of things. And again, she's really talented, but she's quite modest. So I have to try and push her a little bit. But yeah, I think, people should look at her work and see what they think. And I think she's got some great ideas. And, at some point in the future, when she's got time, she's going to deliver a really great short film.
And with your kind of support, she'll have the opportunity to do that. Because not everyone gets...
I don't know. She can do it. She can do it by herself.
Well, no, of course not. Of course. I didn't mean that in a derisive way, but I'm saying that a lot of people don't have support. So having someone in your corner, it matters. Never cut yourself out. That matters.
Yeah.
So Jacob has a question for you. Guillermo del Toro once described filmmaking as carefully orchestrating accidents. Yeah. Do you think of that as an accurate description?
Yeah, pretty much. Because you always have something in mind. And this is why, I'm sure cinematographers must hate me, but I don't like writing shot lists. And, like the Italian film directors, the Giallo film directors of the 70s and 80s, they didn't really have shot lists.
They didn't basically have screenplays.
Yeah, they would change it on the fly. But this is the thing. You'll write something, you'll be really attached to that. There's no point trying to have, I want this exact certain shot, etc. Not on the kind of budgets that we have to work with, the time on location, the things that can go wrong. Somebody gets ill, doesn't turn up. All kinds of things can happen. And they pretty much have on my film shoot. So I think you have to go in with an open mind and have just a creative theme in mind. Obviously, you need to stick to your story. But if you go on location and things aren't quite panning out, even if you've location scouted it already, things happen on the day, things change. So, yeah, I would call these accidents, and it is about making the best of those. And sometimes, things do turn out for the better.
I'll always remember to that point the documentary Heart of Darkness about the making of Apocalypse Now. Coppola was reading from his screenplay, and he wrote this paragraph about having all these birds fly up into the sky and getting this shot of them lifting off of the river. It's beautiful, beautiful prose even. And he literally just that day goes, "We're never going to get that. There's no way to get that. We have to do something else." And period. And so it's like, you can plan. That's great. It doesn't really matter. Or, the local tribesmen might have a water buffalo they're killing tonight anyway. So guess what? You get it on camera.
Yeah.
And yes.
The cat's very sweet.
She has her nails in me, like at the same time. So she's just jealous. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm talking to someone.
She wants attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's like that. She luckily she doesn't dig her nails in too much, but my old cat definitely used to.
So Jacob also is pointing out one of the favorite targets of the show, actually. I remember Jason Blum had said something about finding women horror directors is hard because, quote, there aren't any.
I don't know where he was looking then.
Well, considering the last couple of years, I don't know where he is getting his screenplay writers and directors from, but maybe you might want to consider opening up the possibility of untraditional voices, or at least vetting the traditional voices. Because,
well, he did get Gigi Sol Guerrero to do some of I think it was the Purge series.
Yep.
Yeah, so he obviously has found at least one female director.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be more because there's been a lot of pressure on him to do so after some kind of things that were said.
Yeah.
Which again, language, I think communication is the issue. I'm not a big fan of what Blum have brought to the table over the last few years, period. So I really don't care. I would rather the talented women directors of our time and any director, regardless of gender, get to work with people who are really going to support them and give them the room to grow.
Yeah. The thing is, these companies, they do have scouts out there searching the web for talent. Just when I brought Salient -10 out onto the festival circuit, I had 2 talent production agencies in Hollywood contact me wanting to see a screener. Nothing ever came of this, but I have taken other short films and made them into features, so it can happen, and I'm sure this is happening there as well. So,
okay, Sean McManus is just being mean to me right now because he knows that I am dying to see Saint Maud. Everyone knows it's my most anticipated film of last year. And there's no telling when that's going to happen.
Yeah. Isn't it coming out on Steelbook?
You guys are getting it on Steelbooks over
but you're not.
In a real country. But I have no time. We don't know when we're getting it at all.
You haven't got a multi-region player or anything.
I do, but I'm very wed to the idea of seeing it in a theater, and I still have a movie theater open near me. By the way, it's weekends.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
I just think I think that the big screen, the environment, the excitement that comes with a night out, it helps movies. I decry the day that theaters die. I fear that as much as I love home video and support it.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one, theaters would survive, and physical media would probably.
I totally agree. But I mean, it's a bad position for theaters right now because obviously the COVID and having lots of people in quite a tight space and the aircon and stuff, and I know it's pretty difficult.
So if anyone actually, I'll just import a copy. Don't worry, guys. So I'll end up having to watch it at home. But the reality is I'd like to see it in the theater.
But you might, though, because once things start picking up again a little bit in the future, they might do like reruns of things that people didn't see enough.
I'm hoping, because there's a great little film that came out called the Empty Man that was mismarketed horrifically. It did come out in theaters, but it was gone within like 2 weeks because of the situation. And I think the film deserves a wider audience. I'd like to get back to that release schedule that films used to have like in the 70s, where if something didn't work regionally, they went to the next region and tried something different. And then if it did work there, they went back to where they came from and tried that same thing there.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's why movies have like 7 titles in some cases and 5 different trailers. And
well, it's a good idea, isn't it?
it makes sense, right? So much is invested in making these movies that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not just the money. I mean, obviously to the production companies, that's probably mostly what they care about. But at the end of the day, the cast and crew put so much time and effort, passion into that.
Right.
I mean, it takes over your life.
So your typical short, how long does it take you nuts and bolts beginning to end?
A ridiculously long period of time. So I might start doing pre-production maybe 2 or 3 months before shooting. The shoot itself is the quickest part. So that'd be sort of about a week, not shooting every single day, but let's say roughly a week. The post-production takes ages. Okay, I am quite fiddly, so I like to get everything completely perfect. So I don't do the score. There's a person that does that, Eric Elick, has done both of my festival films, and I have sound people, like Chris Collier did the sound. Those things I cannot do. Those are dark arts for me. But things like the edit, the color grade, stuff like that, even some of the special effects, like the really simple ones. Otherwise, I've used a special effects artist, Davey Simmons, for that stuff. So these things take time. Everyone else manages to finish their stuff pretty quickly, but it's me with the edit, getting everything perfect and stuff. And like, I do crazy things with the grade as well. So for Salient, okay, for like a budgeted feature, this isn't a problem. They have people to do this, but we're talking one person masking off little areas of stuff and just changing bits of light and slight changes to colors and stuff like that, just because when you shoot somewhere like the woods, you can look in this direction and you've got a whole bunch of trees, one color. You look in the other direction, you've got a bunch of trees, a different color. The light changes every 2 seconds. It's quite difficult.
Absolutely, and you can't exactly get out there with lights and gels to illuminate entire trees. So
well, you could if it was shot at night, you could get away with that, but it wouldn't look the same. So, and there was one scene we shot at dusk, and that one is slightly desaturated on the color. There wasn't too much I could do about that, but I doubt anyone else would notice. But yeah, these sort of things, they plague me because I know that they're there.
So I want to talk a little bit about short films as a form, because I think that outside of kind of the festival scene, it seems like a big shame to me that in a world where Netflix and Shudder and all these streaming services are available, that short films don't have more of an avenue to get directly to the consumer. Even if you're not getting paid per view, because you do understand, if they're charging $3 for a feature length film and you have a short, how much does that cost then and whatever?
Yeah.
But I'm so shocked that there isn't a way that you can get exposure for the films through all these media, because it seems like length wouldn't be so canonized anymore. You'd
think Shudder used to have a good short film selection, and now they've taken them off. I guess maybe they didn't have enough views. I don't know the reason. I think they've only got about 2 short films on there at the minute, and that's it. Any filmmaker can put their film on Amazon Prime, so I don't think that's special, because it's definitely not. You just need an account and you're away. They just approve it and it's done. Obviously, it does carry a little bit of prestige because people think that Amazon have selected your film. It's not like that. It's just like a glorified YouTube. So, which is why in the end I just decided to put my films on YouTube, because there was nowhere else for them to go.
Right. You want them seen. That's the whole point.
Yeah, exactly. You want them seen. You want people's hard work seen. So you take it around the festival scene to start with. And around the festival scene, it's great because you go to these different festivals, you talk to like-minded people. It's amazing. You get direct feedback on the films. The films are seen on the big screen, sometimes in large cinemas. It's absolutely amazing. Salient premiered in Cineworld Leicester Square. That was fantastic. You can't really get better than premiering in Leicester Square, not in London anyway. So you do the festivals, you hope that you get like some nominations or awards or something like that. You really hope that your cast and crew get them as well as you. But this is incredibly difficult with short films, because usually the awards go to features. And then, yeah, eventually you finish your festival run. You can only really keep it on there a couple of years, otherwise it gets a bit dragged out. And then you've got to put it somewhere. So mine are on YouTube, but I also did DVDs. But instead of kind of, you can do like some anthology DVDs with various companies, usually in America, because you don't have to BBFC rate them then. But to be honest, if I did that and I did a convention again, when everything's kind of, COVID sorted out, I wouldn't be able to sell those unrated DVDs. So I've just made my own DVDs, artworked them all myself and everything, mastered them all myself, had them professionally printed, but I've had to BBFC rate them. So that does cost money.
So what does the ratings look like at this point? I mean, your country has gone through a massive sweeping change over the last 40 years. From absolute outright bans on films, which sometimes made a little bit of sense, but most of the time were absolutely arbitrary. To where it is today, whereas most of the old video nasties are available uncut in Britain. But where does it stand right now? Have you had any pushback on anything you've done, or do you watch that line?
No, I mean, you have to get everything rated, I think, unless it's a documentary. I may stand corrected on that, but yeah, you have to get everything rated if you want to sell it in the UK or from the UK. So I do get my stuff done, and I think both of them are coming at about £200 all in to get it rated, and that means it's just the film. There's no extras or anything like that, because if you start adding extras on, then you're going to be paying £1,000, and then that is completely unmanageable. So yeah, and I've not been asked to cut anything. So, and I've got violence in there. I've got like a grenade going off in one of them, sort of beating up and stuff, and the other one I've got a corpse and stuff. No one's asked to cut anything else. I think we've kind of moved past that, unless it's like really severe or,
Lest people not know how crazy things were in Britain at one point. Nunchucks were completely disallowed at one point to be even shown, not just in combat, just they couldn't be on screen. Switchblades, I believe, were another thing. I mean, there was just stuff that was just not allowed, and this is all things that happened in my lifetime. So it's not like this is ancient history. We're not that ancient history anyway.
Exactly, and the police used to actually raid video shops as well.
Yeah,
and arrest people and stuff. So
you get caught with a copy of Fulci's Zombie in your hand, you're going to prison.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of my friends, I mean, it's X-rated stuff, she was selling through her company, and she did go to prison. So,
what I mean, if you don't mind, were we talking pornography, or were we just talking stuff
that
was hard enough to
be? Well, I don't know how hard it was or anything.
Well, I just mean, hard violence versus obvious sex films kind of thing. There's a lot of work to be done. Free expression needs to be unchained worldwide. I mean, I'm obviously anything that you have to commit a crime to make, well, that should not be allowed. But if we're talking about fiction, fantasy, I'm not sure what the justification is in 2021 to shut people's mouths up. The worst thing you can ever say, to another human being is shut up. Have a discussion with them, have a conversation, or walk away, but never tell them to shut up. Our basic humanity's on the line.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about you as an actress, which you don't like to talk about.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind talking about it. It's just that I prioritize directing over, anything else, really.
So obviously, there's a part of it is just that as a necessity for a lot of your work. You get someone you can trust. The amount of people that will devote the time and show up, that's part of it, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Do you find yourself writing for yourself?
Yeah, but I mean, again, like, part of the reason, it's not just my vanity, but part of the reason is twofold. So one, because I came from the modelling and I had lots of fans and stuff from that, people expect to see your face in something. It's just the way it is. And the second thing is, I think it's good to show your face as well. I mean, Tarantino's acted in films, other directors have acted in films, maybe not their own films, other people's films, but they have been in front of camera. And I think that does help, because people can see who you are. You're not a strange, mysterious, hidden person. People can connect with you and what you like, and hopefully they like what you're delivering film-wise.
So how do I want to word this? Horror is obviously a genre that has not the best track record about not exploiting women, actresses, that is. Obviously, I'm not asking you, did you ever exploit yourself? Because I'm not even sure that's entirely possible. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, I think it probably is possible, actually. But yeah.
I think you have to be in a pretty dark place.
Yeah, I think you can be exploitative. You can do the whole, the whole sex sells kind of thing. You can do that.
Yeah, but
I don't think it needs to come down to that.
Well, I don't think so either. I mean, I'm not against erotic imagery in films at all. I think it has to tonally work with the rest of it. It has to be part of the whole package.
Yes.
In order to be, I don't want to say justifiable, because you can make whatever the hell you want. Again, I'll never tell anyone to shut up. But for my tastes, it's got to make sense. So if I cannot imagine Videodrome would work without some fairly explicit imagery, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But so when you're writing, do you write to your comfort level as an actress, or is that even part of the process, or is it just, this is where the story's going, I'll worry about the rest of it when I get there?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, to be honest, there are certain things I'm not really interested in putting that kind of stuff in my films, to be honest. The kind of the most extreme it would be is, sort of like a Hellraiser issue type of thing. You probably wouldn't go more extreme than that. But yeah, no, in terms of comfort levels, I mean, when I wrote Seize the Night, when Rick wrote Seize the Night, and I chipped in quite a lot. So we need to remove dialogue and change certain things. But no, it was quite collaborative in where we took the characters and stuff. So I knew I was pushing my acting abilities, and whether I did a good job or not is up to other people to analyse. I know I cringe on certain bits when I see it, but it was challenging. With Salient -10, it wasn't challenging because basically I gave myself no dialogue on screen, because I've got to direct the thing as well. It's so difficult being front of camera and trying to direct. So I gave myself no dialogue, so it was all just, I wasn't in it that much, and it was all just expressions and stuff and head movements. But I actually had the dialogue written to be recorded afterwards, but telepathically to the other person. So
leaning on the old telepathy business.
Yeah, so that was my way around that. But so then I could just concentrate on just giving some expressions and stuff like that. And literally before we were shooting, I had a little field monitor, and I was looking at that. It was on a very long cord to Philip's camera. So just getting the shot lined up and everything, and then it was fine. So that was easy. And going forward, I mean, with Gornio, I had to put myself in it because we were locked down. So it's not like I could get an actor in. So I had to do it. I didn't really have any choice. But yeah, going forwards, probably in my next film, I will not be in it as a main character. I'll probably just make a cameo or something. So I think most people who like my work would be fine with that and not upset by it. So
I think you're getting a reputation as an excellent visual storyteller, and that's where people are going to want to spend your energy anyway.
Thank you.
And we have a chime in that you're going to appreciate. Richard Humphreys says she did cut some dialogue. It was all for the best, as I admit, as the writer, I did overwrite a little. Well, quite a bit. Well,
yeah, you did. Yeah, I said to him, there was one scene. So Anthony Eilert came on board after the script was written. Actually, he was in Wrong Turn 6. He was the lead character in that, and really good actor. And I wasn't going to say no to him being in it. No. But it was already written, and some of it was already shot, I think, at that point, if I remember rightly. And so I said to Rick, can you just write 3 pages, just an opening scene, so that Anthony's character can come in, just give him a few lines of dialogue. He's probably laughing watching this. But I got an essay back about military dialogue and stuff like that. I said, Rick, we can't have this much. Just needs to be a quick intro, but it looks good on screen. It's got dialogue. It's a powerful intro and stuff like that. I mean, Rick is an amazing writer. He's really, really good. He's done some amazing screenplays, and he's been commissioned for a feature recently. And yeah, he's got quite far in competitions and stuff like that. And he also brought a book out as well, Theory in Red, which is amazing. But yeah, like, I think that this is probably like one of the first things that Rick did short film wise outside of his own works. And I think it's just one of those things as a writer, you have to be prepared to just rewrite stuff. And I mean, if he ends up working for a big Hollywood studio, they're probably just getting rewriting it about 5 times because they just do that anyway. So yeah, it's an annoying thing. And sorry, I've annoyed Rick, but like he said, at least he didn't have to come over and sit on a freezing cold set. So yeah.
So awesome news for Richard, definitely.
Yes.
So congratulations, sir. Let me ask you a similar question, though. So Universal Pictures call you up and say, hey, it's fantasy world anyway, so we're going to give you $60 million to make a mid-budgeted feature of your own choosing. What do you do?
I say, great, thanks very much. What should I spend the money on? Because I say, used to not spending the money. But then, to be honest, as soon as you get somebody really famous in, like an A-lister, probably a lot of that's going to go down that route anyway. Yeah, I mean, I know what I want to make for my next film, and that's an anthology, but not like the lockdown anthology that I've just been part of, something completely different to that. You know, and I would like a budget for that, because my own short films, the festival films, I did crowdfund those, but I haven't, you know, I didn't make enough for the actual budget of the film, which means I have to dip into my savings for these things. So if I'm going to do a feature, I just can't put that kind of money in, like my own money, if it's not going to go anywhere and make it back. And I could crowdfund it. But the thing is, you know, it's very difficult because you're asking people to essentially pay for something they haven't seen yet, which is a lot of trust on that person's part. And it could be years before they get to see the actual product, you know. I do like the concept of making a film and then doing the crowdfund to sell the DVD yourself and things. You know, you can make the money back that way, but it's all a risk. So I don't know.
Yeah, it comes back to that. We're still working off 60-year-old, you know, distribution methods. The home video market that premiered 40 years ago is still basically sold the same way. It just happens to be online now. That needs to change. We need to find a new way to get new voices, a lot more exposure. Of course, the studios have no interest in that because that's messing with the power structure that they've built over the last 100 years. But so an anthology, it would be your dream project at the moment?
Yeah, but that's also partly because if you do it as an anthology, you could potentially, it wouldn't always work out this way, but you could shoot each segment separately over a period of time. And then if you don't get the funding for the whole feature, you've at least got one short out of that you can take to the festivals. So that's kind of the line that I'm going down now. And what I'm thinking of is, I mean, realistically, this isn't going to be filming before at least the end of 2021 because of the whole COVID situation. So I've got a lot of time to write this. Rick will probably review my script and criticize it. So. In a good way. But yeah, like, so I've got plenty of time to write it and get things organized and stuff. But yeah, that's the kind of the route that I'm thinking to go down.
Have you ever considered taking some of your existing shorts and building an anthology from them, with maybe just shoot a wraparound?
No, it wouldn't work. They're too different. No, I want something. It needs to be in the same theme. And the wrap, I really know actually what I want for this. So, yeah. I mean, I could do a compilation DVD, but I've already done that for my last 2 festival films. So they're on a compilation. But because both of them are at a different frame rate and I didn't want to compromise one of them, they're both on separate discs. So it's not that much of a compilation. It's just the double disc DVD.
So we just came out of a year where I think all of us, in little ways and in big ways, changed our lives. And I think for the majority of us, the idea of going back to how we once lived seems very distant. It may still happen, but it feels like things have changed permanently.
Yeah.
Do you think that what scares people has fundamentally changed because of this experience?
Possibly. I mean, loneliness might be a factor for a lot of people. I do see a lot of people posting about being lonely, and the lockdown is. So somebody that lives on their own, they don't see friends or anything like that. And different rules are different depending where you're locked down a lot of the time. Those are the people I'm seeing. They're quite upset and lonely. So maybe that will drive different things.
Well,
it's difficult to say.
You saw at the beginning of my video that I started every video with my definition of the genre, which is about it's about the reaction to the emotions, the dark emotions. In the last couple of years, all the great films that have come out have been all about grief. It seems to be the major emotion that's being explored in horror right now. Not fear, not disgust. This is about as far from torture porn as you could get.
Yeah.
So, do you think that maybe that's the next thing? Do you think loneliness, isolation, could that be?
It could be
the next sweet spot.
It could be, but then again, on the other hand, would people want to be reminded of that?
I think as long as it's compartmentalized right, perhaps. I mean, how long after 9/11 did it take for 9/11 imagery to start invading science fiction films? Right? Not long.
I don't know.
It was funny, you couldn't have the actual towers in films anymore, but you could all the imagery for Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds remake, that was completely acceptable. So I think if you compartmentalize these things, you can still do them. Maybe more than ever.
Yeah, I guess so. I read the other day, I watched Scrooged, which I've seen loads of times over the years. But this time I watched it looked quite different, and I didn't really know why. And apparently it's because there's a whole bunch of stuff at the beginning that was cut in previous years. And one of them was a terrorist attack that people said looked a bit like 9/11 or something like that. I can't quite remember, but I don't know.
I do believe that it's kind of a double-edged sword in the genre. There's the pure fantasy side of the genre, which will always have its place. And then there's the reflective side, which is whatever's going on in society, whatever the fear in the zeitgeist is, and it holds the mirror up. And sometimes you get both, but often it's one or the other. Do you find yourself on one side or the other of that coin? Or do you want to explore both sides? Or have you explored both sides?
I kind of did a little bit in Salient -10, but that was literally exploring the concept of boredom almost. So I don't think you can really pick this up so much from the film, but this character is just like a corporate man. He's on his way to work. He's doing the same thing every day, the same kind of journey. He's got his coffee, and then he goes through this underpass and just gets transported to this other world where suddenly like everything becomes super exciting in terms of he's having to play this dangerous game. But he probably would have preferred his boring life to having his life at risk and having to do all these kind of things. So it was a bit like a be careful what you wish for kind of thing, without me specifically showing that. I think the next thing that I want to do is more traditional around kind of fantasy type elements.
So before we start to wrap up here, I mean, and if anyone has questions out there in the chat, please go ahead and get them in for Emma. I want you to have the opportunity. What do you want to do to build a consistent viewership worldwide? What is it that you're... Go ahead and speak to the audience right now. Just let them know what you have to offer and why they should be following you.
Well, I want to do more stuff like Salient -10. That kind of thing, slightly retro, slightly abstract, probably a little bit more commercial than Salient -10, but sitting in the horror / sci-fi genre, very much on the dark side. That's the kind of thing that I want to go down. That is my passion. Things like the vampire films, like Season Night and some other things I've acted in, I'm not going to go down that route for various reasons. I know lots of people specifically follow me for Season Night and those other films, but it's not really a route I want to go down. So
That's kind of your underworld type thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I like the film. Don't get me wrong. I still like the film. You know, I love what I've made and everything. But the thing is, because that was what I wanted to make, but I've also acted in a couple of things where I've been a vampire, and people start really boxing you into being a vampire. You know, and I'm not a vampire. I actually have had weird messages before with people thinking I actually am a vampire. So it gets a bit odd.
Can you hold a mirror up just to prove that to everyone?
I just think vampire films are great because they're quite easy to make. You know, they're one of the easiest monsters to portray because you've just got to put a couple of teeth in a lot of the time. You know, but
I keep screaming it out. Blood Vessel from last year, best vampire film in years because they were brought back to being monsters in the real sense. In the kind of Nosferatu type of mold.
Nice.
Of course, it was reflecting like a remnant of fascism rather than plague. So I mean, the metaphor is different, but I really appreciated having the monster back and not just sparkling people all over the place.
Oh yeah, no, we don't like those sparkly vampires.
No, we can do without some sparkles, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Griffin has a question for you. Personal favorite British horror film?
Oh, one of them would be Deathline, aka it might be known as Raw Meat in the US.
The Donald Pleasance film?
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely love that. I think it's a great film.
Get past first 10 minutes, it's golden. First 10 minutes can be rough.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing because this is years and years ago, and I just tuned in. It was on terrestrial TV, BBC Two over here, and I tuned in as it started. And it was the first 5-10 minutes. I thought, there's not much happening here. Like, and I don't even think that I knew it was a horror. I think I was just flicking through channels, and I flicked to something else, and I thought, this isn't very good. I flipped back, but all of a sudden, just like that, it changed. It was great, and I absolutely loved it from that point on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our friend Jonathan, over at Bombastic Reviews, check out his channel. People asks, where can I find some of her films? You might want to look under this video. But go ahead, Emma.
Yeah, you've got the links in. But the easiest way is just to go to emmadark.com, and you can find all the links off to everything from there.
Absolutely. Jacob wants to know, Hammer or Amicus?
I don't know. That's a tough one, really, isn't it? Let's say both.
If you're talking Beast Must Die always wins. Because that movie shouldn't exist in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I think I'm caught up on the comments. Yep. So obviously you don't know exactly what's going on with everything with COVID, but is there anything on the horizon that we should keep a lookout with you?
Yeah, well, definitely the film that I want to make next. I mean, actually, the only person that knows anything about it is Rick, and he doesn't know much because I've kept him very in the dark. Yeah, I doubt I'd announce that until probably at least the summer, once I've at least got a skeleton drafted, and I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I don't know whether I'm just going to make a fake trailer and then try and get funding, whether I'm going to try and do a short, or whether I'm going to try and do the feature. This is all down to what can I get funded, and obviously the economy is not great at the minute. Apart from that, I should also be acting in another film at some point, either later this year or early next year, I believe. I don't know what it's about. I know it's like a horror-y thriller, and that's by filmmaker Martin Daniels, who did House of Lexi, that I'm also in, which is a very good film. And I really like playing that role.
Excited. Griffin also asks, what is your favorite horror film from the last 15 years?
Well, there could be loads. I don't know. There are too many for me to mention. Like, literally, I'll forget them. I watch stuff every day. I'll just tell you what I've recently bought, and it might not be from the last 15 years. So I bought the Saw box set. Okay, that definitely is from the last 15 years. I got quite into watching that stuff. I kind of dismissed them before, but I went back and I watched the original James Wan Saw, and that is a great film. I think that is a real masterpiece for what it is. And the rest of the films are really just enjoyable to watch. But then I also bought the Twilight Zone, the original series box set, seasons 1 to 5, and that's obviously from the 60s, so I can't really include that. Yeah.
Get all your Charles Beaumont and your Richard Matheson adaptations all in one place is never a bad thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I'd literally have to compile a list. And actually, so if you search somewhere on my social media, I've got my top 10 films on there. If you search for my name and top 10 films, and some of them are from at least the last 15 years. So
Awesome. Well, you've got a lot of people out there mentioning their favorite films from both ever and what got them into horror. So Nigel Keel's Woman in Black is being mentioned. Obviously, an awesome film. Sean McManus is mentioning one of my favorites, Don't Look Now. It is interesting that Britain has probably an oversized influence on the horror genre when you look at it, compared when you look at the size of the country versus their influence, the shadow they've cast. Whereas outside of outside of maybe Japan having a similar sort of influence, there really aren't that many countries that have kind of had as much influence as America. But I think Britain has.
Yeah, I think so. They're definitely for the more gothic horror type stuff. Yeah,
and I'll just scream it out. I just absolutely feel like the scariest film ever made is The Haunting of Julia, which you guys have as full circle because you have to be different. It's the Peter Straub adaptation, and it's
I haven't seen that.
Oh my god, that movie messed me up so bad when I was a kid, and I saw it for the first time, and it continues to do its work.
Okay, I'm gonna have to find it and watch it. Yeah,
I think there is a version of it on Amazon. I don't know. You might have to rent it though. It's a weird film. The rights in that film are all over the place, so that's why we don't have a nice shiny disc anywhere in the world. But
that's a shame.
Yeah, there's also Colin Towns did the score. It's one of my favorite horror scores. It's just I'm a big music in movies guy. I think when you talk about films, music always elevates. For instance, you said Saw. I am a Saw fan, and I take a lot of shit for that, by the way. But you know what? When you look at that score, that score it becomes part of the quilt work of the horror genre. Period. To me, more than the puppet, more than Jigsaw himself. That music.
It's really good, actually, isn't it? The Saw, the overtures.
Yeah, Charlie
really good piece of music.
Yeah, Hello Zepp is just an amazing piece of music, and I think that's a recurring theme in horror. That when the music takes great films and makes them classics. So John Carpenter's Halloween, great film, no matter what, but the music is what makes the great film into a classic. So I think that's a big thing. So it's great that you have a partner to work with in music as well that you're comfortable with, because I can't overstate how important I think music is in film.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah. I often listen to soundtracks, actually.
Yeah. And they're talking about ripping slipcovers, which you probably don't understand, so we'll just have to move on. I have a campaign to get people to appreciate the films, not the packaging, because I think as physical media dies, anything that brings the cost of putting this into people's hands should be avoided, so that we can have a profit margin for as long as we can, so they continue to make things. And we got to the point where they were printing cardboard sleeves to put around movies that are already embedded in plastic.
Yeah,
it's not an environmental thing for me. It's adding a cost for the collectors who want to geek out over it, but the normie who might buy 2 movies a year, they look at the price. That's what they're determining. So if we could get all movies on Blu-ray for $15, we'd be in good shape.
Yeah. Do you know what I find though? On DVDs, quite often, sort of the cheaper DVDs that you might find sort of like for $1 or £1 in shops, a lot of them have the cardboard slipcase. And I just think, how can they justify even the cost of printing it for what they're selling it for, And the thing about those cardboard slipcases, they do look nice when you pick them up. But when you put them on the shelf next to another DVD or something, you always find you scuff them up and it's just terrible. So it's kind of like, there's no point, is there? It looks nice on the shelf. It makes it look more expensive. But as soon as you put it on your own shelf in your own collection, that's it.
Well, I just want to see the home video market continue to exist, and we're going to lose that battle sooner rather than later. But I know the cost is what's keeping the normal people who don't see a need to own movies mostly. But if something was cheap enough and they liked the movie enough, they might be enticed. But if you're looking at a $25-$35 price tag, the average person is not doing
Yeah,
it.
no,
There's just no
exactly.
way.
I mean, even me. I mean, I collect things. If it's a really nice box set, or if it's a really nice steel book or something, it's a film that I want, I'll get that. But now I don't buy loads of DVDs because, you know, to be honest, most of the films, you know, there are so many things on streaming platforms, Amazon and stuff, where you can purchase a digital copy.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things. I mean, obviously, when you buy a Blu-ray and it comes with the DVD, or you buy a 4K and it comes with the Blu-ray, that's pointless. That needs to stop because it's just adding to cost.
Exactly.
My whole point isn't that if everything was healthy in the world, this wouldn't be a campaign on my part. But the fact that we're going to lose physical media, I'm just I'm trying to be the solution guy, you know. Not that it's going to work. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. This was a lot of fun. You gave up your evening to go prattle on with me for a while. I want to thank some of the people out in the chat. Just quickly, Jacob being very active, asking a lot of questions. Thank you. Jamie, always great to see you. Rachel Power, a guest from last week, on this is in the chat. Jonathan from Bombastic Reviews is out there. Griffin, again, a lot of communication back. Thanks. Appreciate that. Jess Graham, always great, sir. Hayden Cornelius is out there, and the Cornelius Collection. Check out his website. Some great stuff there. His website, his channel. Some great stuff there. Griffin, Richard Humphreys, your friend and comrade and brother in arms.
Yes.
Sean McManus, Lance Lust, good friend of the show. There's more, but I can't scroll anymore. That's just, my tendonitis just killed me. So forget it, guys. If I didn't mention you, thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate it. We are back on Wednesday with the next installment of our horror genre game show, Critical Pursuit, the most dangerous game show. Any final thoughts, Emma?
No, just want to thank everyone for watching and asking questions, and hopefully I didn't waffle on too much. You know, I do have a tendency to do that and stumble over my words, and as
the British say, you're brilliant. All right, thanks everyone. See you soon. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Exposes herself to an assortment of radiation. Some, such as the solar rays, are heaven sent.